I am trying something brand new today. If you watched what I will and will not can again, you remember my can of mandarin oranges, and I said I won't can them again because they're just too bitter. No matter what I do, no matter how many times I've canned them, they're still a little bitter. I said the same about my mango. Not that they're bitter, but that I absolutely hated them canned. And one of you had recommended that I try to make mango bread. And a light bulb went off, and I thought, that's a great idea. But I could also try to make mandarin sweet bread. So I had a clam bake, and fall was the theme. And I did a bunch of different fall recipes. And I thought, how good would mandarin bread be? So I just whirled up a jar of my mandarin oranges. It made 2 cups after it was strained. My recipe here only called for 1 cup. I did intend to make 2 breads and never got around to it. I did a bunch of other, desserts as well. So 1 bread was fine. I will say, spoil alert, it was fantastic. You never would have known that those mandarin oranges were bitter. It is a wonderful way to use up those jars of mandarins. So thank you to the subscriber who recommended that. Absolutely loved that idea. So you're going to see me here put together the dry ingredients for this mandarin bread. I always like to push down on baking soda and baking powder just to make sure that they're not clumpy. I got this recipe from Pinterest actually, so I will link that recipe down below. It'll take you to the Pinterest, or rather probably the website, I would imagine, where you could print it off or write it down or save it to your Pinterest page if you wish. It was a very good recipe, turned out great, and I will be making this again. My stand mixer was currently in use, and the silver bowl that you see I had purchased thinking it was another attachment to the KitchenAid that I have. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite fit, and so I can't use it on my actual stand mixer. So I'm doing this by hand today, which is no big deal. I have been in the kitchen working without a KitchenAid still to this day longer than I have worked with one. So I don't mind doing things by hand, but when I come to realize that my butter isn't quite soft, I am thinking, I think I might have to put this in the microwave for a little bit because this is definitely not going to cream together very easily. So I'm breaking it up into smaller pieces and I'm thinking I'll get back to that. But here's something fun to show you. So I freeze dried all of those eggs. I just scrambled the whole entire eggs, laid them out on my freeze dryer sheets, freeze dried them, and then they powdered. And it's a 2-to-2 ratio to hydrate them. 2 tablespoons of the freeze dried eggs to 2 tablespoons of water. I personally find that I like to do maybe heaping tablespoons of water. I do like to add a little bit more water than what, is recommended to give it a little bit more volume, like typical eggs were. But I tell you what, it works fantastic. My hens are not laying. I have 6 older girls and they've not always been super productive to begin with, but this time of year I feel like they are just on a resort in the backyard enjoying life, sunbathing, eating all day, and napping. So they're pretty much just on vacation at this point. So I go and resort to the freeze-dried eggs for baking. I have not tried them yet for making scrambled eggs, but they do make fantastic French bread. Scratch that, I say that every time. French toast. So those are the two methods that I use them, and they're wonderful every single time. So creaming together the butter and the sugar, adding in my eggs. The juice from the mandarin oranges, like I said, made 2 cups. And you know, when I was making this, I almost forgot myself. And I started to pour the juice into my bowl, and I caught myself, thankfully, because I was like, oh, wait, yeah, I only need 1 cup. But that was good to know that 1 pint would make basically 2 batches of this bread. I'm going to try and use it to make cranberry orange muffins. Absolute favorite this time of year, especially. I don't know why. I don't know if it's supposed to be considered more of a summer dish. I think it's fall, but I love it. Nonetheless, I'll eat it really any time of year, but absolutely love. Oh, I'm adding in some of my orange extract too, because the recipe called for the orange peel, and I don't have any. I didn't have actual oranges on hand at the moment. I don't have any freeze-dried or dehydrated. I usually have some peels dehydrated, but I don't at this time. So I just thought, well, to add in really just the extra flavors, what they're asking you to do, I went ahead and just added my homemade orange extract. It's phenomenal. And then the orange juice, I'm going to just give that a mix, and then I'm going to add in the dry ingredients as well. Make sure I could taste this before I served it to my guests. So I just used a silicone muffin liner and put just 1 spoonful of the mix in there. So I will admit, I did over bake it a little bit. I got distracted and I forgot that I probably should go and check on that way sooner before the actual bread would be done. I didn't cook it the entire, was it 50 or 60 minutes this asked for, but I definitely cooked it a little too long. It wasn't terrible, but boy, even with cooking it a little too long, it was fantastic. It was sweet. It had that essence of orange. It was amazing. I just was so happy that this turned out as well as it did. And the dough pretty much reminds me of really any other sweet bread that you would make. So it's not difficult by any means. I had to take one extra step to, whirl up and juice the oranges myself, but that was no big deal. My little Ninja mixer handled that just fine. Now, I will say here towards the end, you're going to see me taking the bread out of the bread mold. Looks beautiful. I absolutely adore bread molds. Unfortunately, because it was so busy the day of the clam bake, I did not get a finished picture. I took some powdered sugar and water and just made a very simple glaze out of it. I added some dehydrated oranges to the platter so people would know it was orange flavor. And I didn't take a picture. It was so busy that day. Do you know, I took not one picture. But I'm hoping I can bring you back for an update because we did have a photographer at the clam bake, and I'm pretty certain she probably got a picture of it. So I will bring you back and do an update once I receive those pictures. So that is the bottom of the bread mold. And, this actually did come up pretty easy. I just had to give it a couple taps. And, oh, it is so pretty. Perfect bread mold for the harvest time. I hope you take this subscriber's recommendation just like I did. If you have something you're not a fan of, try using it in a different way. It might just surprise you. Thank you again. It was wonderful. I'll see you next time.